You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and it's going to be the same thing as yesterday. A lot of hockey to get to, nothing else to talk about, and I couldn't be happier. This has been so much fun watching all these hockey games, especially with the Islanders winning. And they are winning in very convincing fashion. You remember early in the season, they went on that big winning streak and they looked like a team that could really contend for the Stanley Cup, and then they fell back to earth? They're playing just as well now as they were earlier in the season. That's how great they look. The Islanders have thoroughly outplayed the Panthers in both games. Getting Adam Pelech back cannot be overstated. What he's done for that Islander defense has been invaluable. It doesn't show up on the score sheet, but he led the entire Islander team in time on the ice. That's how much Trotz trusts him. He misses a bulk of the season. The coronavirus happens. And in the second playoff game, he's leading the team in TOI. It doesn't get much better than that. The Islanders have looked fantastic. There's no other way to say it. What's been really fun for me is seeing their power play finally click. The Islanders had 7 power plays yesterday. In March, they would have gone over. They would have gone over 7, I promise you. But they had 2 power play goals. Ryan Pulock and Jordan Eberle on beautiful set plays. Not to mention the fantastic drop pass by Tom Kuhnhackl to Matt Martin. What a great pass that was. I mean, watch that goal. And watch the setup that Kuhnhackl gave Martin. I'm not a big Kuhnhackl fan, but if he can keep doing that, I have no problem with him playing. The Islander defense has been fantastic. The offense has been fantastic. The goaltending has been fantastic. This team is clicking on all cylinders. I know I didn't do any playoff preview, but I did say in previous shows that there was no team that was going to benefit more from this pause than the Islanders. Because you gotta remember, before the pause, they were playing like garbage. They had lost their last 7. They were 2-4-4 in their last 10. They made the big trade for Pajot. They didn't win a game with him in the lineup. They were out of the playoffs when the season got paused. Now, granted, they had 2 games in hand on the Blue Jackets, but I was saying to people, it doesn't matter. The Islanders are going to lose those games. They were playing like garbage, but the pause negated all of it. This just proves what I've been saying, that we're all starting at 0. Every single team is starting at 0. And the Islanders took that mantra to heart. And they are playing the best hockey that they've played all year. There's nothing they're doing wrong. The only thing I would say is a guy like Matthew Barzal, the best player on the team, he's been invisible. I mean, his one highlight was getting the trainers sent out after he went careening into the boards. But I said this to my buddy Jim, who I was watching the game with. It's not that big a loss. Barzal's been invisible. Barzal has a tendency to try to do things all himself. He forgets he has teammates. He's an infuriating hockey player. I love Barzal. Best player on the team. My favorite player. But there are moments that you want to strangle him. I'd like it if the Islanders could get him going. I'd like it if the Islanders could get Lee going. Nelson also would be nice. But that's the thing with this Islander team. They really don't have that go-to goal scorer. So there's no one who, if you shut down, you've automatically beaten them. If you take Barzal out of the game, no big loss. Guys like Beauvillier and Pajot and Eberle are going to step up. And they're going to propel the Islanders to victory. They're going to play defense-first hockey, and they're going to win. There's no chance that the Islanders are blowing this. None. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that they're going to win today. I don't care who's starting in net, Varlamov or Greiss. It should be Varlamov. I don't want to hear the back-to-back games nonsense. This guy has only played 2 games since my birthday. Alright? The back-to-back games mean nothing to me. Varlamov needs to start. But even if it's Greiss, it doesn't matter. That's how good this team is playing. Defensively, this team has been insane. They're forcing the Panthers to take bad shots. I mean, the Panthers have only scored 3 goals in these 2 games. The first goal, the Huberdeau goal, was off an odd man rush. The Islanders got sloppy there. Alright, fine. The second one was a good, honest goal. Mike Hoffman did a really good job there. The third one was a power play goal. You can live with giving up a power play goal. That's okay. Especially when you score 2 of your own. This power play was a laughingstock. It got to the point where if the Islanders were on the power play, I would be on my phone checking Twitter. I wouldn't even watch it. Jacob, why aren't you watching it? It's an Islander power play. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to get any shots. It's going to be a waste of time. And you know what? More often than not, I was right. But for whatever reason, Jim Hiller has been able to rejigger this power play, and they are cooking. The defense is cooking. Yeah, they've made some mistakes, but that's hockey. You're not going to have a shutout every game. And the way Varlamov is playing, does it really matter if the defense makes some mistakes? Varlamov has been insane. He's been better than anyone could have expected. I know I'm going on and on gushing about the Islanders. I didn't expect this. I did not expect them to look this good. I did think they were going to win. I did think they were going to beat the Panthers. But I didn't think they would do it this convincingly. I understand we still have a game to play. It's possible that this can age really badly. But I'm really confident in my team. And that's something I haven't been able to say in a long time. with the way the Yankees are playing, and the Nets upsetting the Bucks, with all their injuries, plus the Islanders, it's very good to be me right now. Moving on now to Coyotes Predators, and my God, did the Coyotes play like garbage. There was no facet of the game that they did well. Face-offs, they were atrocious. The Predators more than doubled them up. The Coyotes won 21, the Predators won 43. They went 0 for 3 on the power play. They got out-hit, they got outshot. The Coyotes were lifeless. They couldn't get anything going. You want to tell me that they outshot the Predators in the first period, 14-5? How can you say that, Jacob? Trust me, those were bad shots. Those were shots that UC Saros could have stopped in his sleep. And plus, after that first period, where the Coyotes had 14 shots, they only had 12 the rest of the game. One thing that I thought the Predators did really well was positioning, both offensively and defensively. Offensively, they put pucks on net that were picture perfect. The first 2 goals, the Bonino goal and the Johansson goal, were put in the only spot that they could have beaten Kemper. A millimeter in any direction, and Kemper stopping it. And defensively, like I said, they were forcing bad shots. The third Predators goal was also impressive to me. I like the fact that Järnkrok stuck with the play. He got his shot blocked by Chychrun, and then he buried home his own rebound. I like that. That's sticking with the play, getting into the dirty areas. Really, really good job by Järnkrok. And then the fourth goal, the Arvidsson goal, he just beat Kemper glove side. I mean, that was a howitzer of a shot. I don't know what it would have registered on the radar gun, but, ooh, that was something. Al McInnes would have been proud of that shot. This is going to be a really fun series. I understand it's not the easiest series to get into. If you don't follow the two teams, you know, the Coyotes are really an team. Yeah, they have a couple exciting players like Taylor Hall and Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller and Phil Kessel and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but that's pretty much it. And the Predators didn't expect to be here at all. They fired Laviolette. They replaced Pekka Rinne with Saros. I don't think they expected to be here. But this is shaking out to be a really good playoff series. And I gotta tell you, this is what I like about the playoffs in both hockey and basketball. You see teams that you just never see. I live in New York. I don't see the Western Conference teams that much. I mean, it's not too often that I'm staying up late to watch a Coyotes game. I understand that you probably weren't interested in this series when it first got going, but it's turned into a really, really fun series. The Western Conference so far is beating the Eastern Conference in terms of playoff excitement. Moving on now to Blue Jackets, Maple Leafs. And I gotta give the Maple Leafs credit. They didn't get to Korpisalo in the first period like I said they needed to. But they kept peppering him with shots. Korpisalo faced 39 shots from some of the best players in the NHL. Guys like Tavares, Matthews, Riley, Nylander, Marner. Eventually, you're going to cave. And Korpisalo caved. They didn't allow him to rest at all. A lot of that game was spent in the Blue Jackets' defensive zone. The Blue Jackets could get nothing going offensively. They only had 20 shots. I really can't remember a golden opportunity they had to put the puck past Anderson. The eventual game-winning goal, the Matthews goal, was a really good pass by Zach Hyman, and then the Tavares breakaway. Nice move there. He got Korpisalo guessing, and then he sniped it under his right arm. But the real story of this game is the really, really scary Jake Muzzin injury. When you saw it live time, it didn't look like much. And you were wondering, why is Muzzin in so much pain? But then when you watch the clip, his head collided with Oliver Bjorkstrand's knee hard. I mean, that is skull on knee. No padding there. I understand you're wearing a helmet, but when you're going down onto someone's knee, there's not much that helmet's going to be able to do. Muzzin had to be stretchered off. It took a really long time for him to get stretchered off. It took like 10-15 minutes. At least it felt like that. I mean, I understand you need to be careful, but you've got to do a better job than that. If, God forbid, it was really serious, like a brain bleed or something, time is of the essence. Or imagine a Malarchuk injury or a Zednik injury. You can't take 10 to 15 minutes to get the guy off the ice. I mean, that just doesn't work. But thoughts and prayers go out to Jake Muzzin. The one weakness that the Leafs have is their defense. They really don't have great depth there. Yeah, they have Riley and Barry, but after that, it really falls off a cliff. Muzzin wasn't doing much offensively, but defensively, he was probably their best player. Second on the team in hits, behind Kyle Clifford. First in blocked shots. He was a plus 12. I don't know when or if we're going to see Muzzin back. I mean, he's in a hospital now. He can move his hands, but I think it's going to be a while before we see him again. That was a really, really scary injury. It could have been a lot worse. Thank God that Muzzin is at least conscious. Moving on now to Flames Jets. And the NHL really did the Jets a disservice here. Not intentionally, but they still did them a huge disservice by having them play back-to-back games when they were already gassed. They're without a bunch of players: Scheifele, Laine, Mason Appleton. Matthew Perreault left the game early. I mean, these guys were gassed. You could see it. You remember that scene from Miracle where Herb Brooks has the guys skating back and forth and they're just gassed, and finally Mike Eruzione ends it? That's what they looked like. They looked unbelievably exhausted. And that's the problem with having back-to-back games in the playoffs. You want these teams playing at 100%. I understand that there was nothing the NHL could have done with the injuries, but the fatigue factor is really what sunk the Jets here. They played the worst hockey I've ever seen them play. I mean, my God, they gave up 6 goals. They gave up 3 power play goals. They looked lifeless. Connor Hellebuck was getting no support. Cam Talbot had to be doing backflips. Yeah, he faced 35 shots, and 2 of them went in, but he really wasn't forced to work that much. They weren't quality scoring opportunities. I mean, I give Nick Ehlers credit for stepping up and doing the best he can to try to will the Jets to a victory. But you can see this team is just exhausted. They need a break. And they're really not going to get it. They're off today, but they're playing tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I mean, I understand that gives them over 48 hours to recover, but the Islanders got 2 days before their back-to-back with the Panthers. The Jets need to come up with something fast. They've got to drink a lot of coffee or, have a really good dinner beforehand. I don't know. But if they don't get themselves back in prime condition, it's not even their fault. I'm not knocking them. It's just a statement of fact. If they're as gassed in Game 4 as they were in Game 3, that's it. Forget about it. They're going home. But I will give the Flames credit for finally doing something that I've been screaming for them to do for a while. Utilize their inherent advantage. Without Scheifele and Line and Perreault and Appleton, the Flames are head and shoulders better than the Jets. They just weren't showing it. But yesterday, they woke up. I give them credit. They played great hockey. And I don't see how the Jets are going to win Game 4. Jeff Ward finally got through to his team. He made him realize that they are the better team. They just needed to play like it. And you know what? They played like it yesterday. Moving on now to Hurricanes-Rangers. The Rangers being the first team eliminated in the NHL bubble. You have no idea how happy this made me. I mean, look, I said it yesterday. I'm not going to say it again. But, yeah. I was rooting for the Hurricanes hard. I'll give the Rangers credit. They played really well in the first period. But similar to Game 2, they couldn't sustain it. I mean, they did for a little bit. 12 seconds in, Kreider scores the only goal for the Rangers. But after that, it was all Hurricanes. The Rangers tried to out-hit the Hurricanes. I don't know what they were doing. That wasn't their game. They were getting really physical. They were upset. I feel like they were trying to compensate for their lack of skill. I mean, you could tell that the Hurricanes were the better hockey team. So they were trying to just out-bully the Canes. It's a legitimate strategy, but it very rarely works. That's tough to do. Because these are professional NHLers. They've seen that before. James Reimer started the game for the Hurricanes, and he stood on his head. He made fantastic saves. That sprawling save that he made with his stick, that is an otherworldly save. That's the save of the year. He had 37 saves. And that's the backup goalie doing that. When you only get 1 goal on 38 shots against the backup goalie, yeah, you don't deserve to be there in the first place. Igor Shesterkin did start for the Rangers. That was the right decision by Quinn. Quinn didn't do anything wrong in this series. I mean, like my father said, they probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. They looked like an OHL team compared to the Hurricanes. Shesterkin was okay. I mean, it was his first playoff game. I can't expect too much. Yeah, sometimes you get crazy stories, but you can't kill a rookie for giving up 3 goals in his first playoff game. And it's kind of funny, with the Hurricanes being the better team in this series. In the regular season, the Rangers destroyed the Hurricanes. Every time those two teams went up against each other, the Rangers destroyed them on every end of the ice. But you know what? Once those lights are on bright, the regular season doesn't matter. The Hurricanes took their playoff experience from last year. They weren't intimidated, and they steamrolled the Rangers. But you know what? It kills me to say this. The Rangers will be back sooner rather than later. They have a really good core with Shesterkin, Panarin, Zibanejad, Strome, D'Angelo, Buchnevich, Kreider, and Fox. And it's even possible that you could add Alexis Lafreniere to that mix. One of the eliminated teams in the qualifying round is going to get the first overall pick, and that's most likely going to be Lafreniere. If it's the Rangers, wow. He just made that team a million times better. The Rangers are on the right track. They have a good, young, bright coach. Just stay the course. Don't do anything stupid. Don't make crazy signings for over-the-hill veterans or blockbuster trades for guys who are no longer in their prime. Just stay the course. Moving on now to Wild Canucks. And, wow, did the Wild play bad this game. They had all the momentum, Stalock playing great, Spurgeon playing great, but they couldn't carry it over. 24 seconds into the game, Tanner Pearson scores a goal. And after that, it seemed like the Wild were on their heels for the next 50-some-odd minutes. Luke Cunnin played really well. He had the shorthanded goal, and he had the big hit on Alex Edler. Kevin Fiala kept his great play up. He scored 2 goals late in the third period. He single-handedly tried to win the game for the Wild. I give him credit. That does mean something to me, that he wasn't willing to keel over and die. He wanted to try to actually win this thing. But you know what? When you go 0 for 6 on the power play, you don't deserve to win. Then again, when you go 1 for 7 on the power play, you don't deserve to win either. But the Canucks were able to eke out a win. They nearly blew it. I don't think either one of these teams are that great. Whoever ends up winning this series, I think is going to be eliminated in the next round. Neither one of these teams have impressed me. You know, Markstrom and Stalock are solid, but they're not great. The Canucks have really not impressed me with how they've played, And the Wild really shouldn't have been here in the first place. So, yeah, it's kind of hard for me to get excited about this series. Alright, now it's time to preview today's games. I'll start with Islanders-Panthers. For the Islanders, just keep doing what you're doing. It's working. You're playing as well now as you've played all year. Keep it up. Play great defensively. Maybe try to get Barzal, Lee, and Nelson a little more involved, but don't kill yourselves over it. That's the thing with this team, and it's good and it's bad. It's good because you can't key in on one player, so you have to defend everyone. But it's bad because when you're down by one with a minute left to go in the game, there's really no one who you can count on. Fortunately, when you're going up against an inferior team, and make no mistake about it, the Panthers are an inferior team to the Islanders, that latter scenario usually doesn't happen. As for the Panthers, just try to take it one day at a time. You're not going to win the series today. Don't worry about Game 4. Don't worry about Game 5. Worry about today. And you've got to help Bobrovsky out, because he has proven that he's not that shutdown goalie that you paid him to be. One other thing I would say is don't take too many penalties. I mean, maybe that's something that Quenneville said to his team. The Islanders have been bad on the power play, so be a little more aggressive. But the Islanders have made changes, and they've worked. But ultimately, I don't see how the Panthers are going to win this series. I don't see how they're going to win this game. This has been a dominant performance for the Islanders, and it'll continue to be a dominant performance for the Islanders. Moving on now to Predators-Coyotes, and I'll start with the Predators. This is going to sound kind of obvious, but I'll say it anyway. Keep doing what you did yesterday, because it worked. You were by far and away the better team. Ryan Johansson got going. Keep that up. Your power play has been cooking, despite struggling all year, very similar to the Islanders. Your penalty kill has been great. Special teams has been perfect for the Predators. You can't ask for much more than what they've done. Keep focusing on special teams. Keep Johansson involved. Stick to the script that won you Game 2. For the Coyotes, the number one thing I would say is get to the dirty areas. The reason they won Game 1 was because they got into those dirty areas and they got deflections, they got good bounces, they got good puck luck, and it worked. If you're willing to do all the little things, muck it up in the corner, get beat up by the goalie and the defenseman when you're screening the goalie, that bodes well for your chances of winning. The Coyotes didn't do that yesterday. They've got to be a little more aggressive. Don't be afraid to get hurt. I mean, look, hockey's a physical game. You're going to get beat up. It's just that simple. Don't be afraid of it. That's how you win games. Moving on now to Lightning Bruins. This could very well be an Eastern Conference Finals preview. these are the two best teams in the East by far. Not even close. The Lightning need to get their big guns going here. Against the Capitals, Sergachev, Johnson, Shattenkirk, Hedman, and Palat were invisible. That doesn't work. You've got to get all those guys cooking. And the Bruins are going to look to be physical. It's what they do. They're a very, very physical team. But the Lightning can match up with them. Even though the Bruins have guys like Charlie McAvoy and Sean Corrali and Brandon Carlo and Chris Wagner, the former Islander who I really liked, the Lightning can match up with them. They have Blake Coleman, they have Barclay Goodrow, they have Cedric Paquette, they have Eric Cernak, they have Patrick Maroon. They can match up with the Bruins from a physical standpoint better than any team in the NHL can. Don't back down from the Bruins. Don't be afraid of them. As for the Bruins, the number one thing is start Tuukka Rask. It's just that simple. Tuukka Rask needs to start. It can't be Yaroslav Halak. We saw it. He was garbage against the Flyers. Start Rask, and I think you'll get your big guns cooking. Guys like Pasternak, Marchand, Bergeron, Krug, and Krejci will all benefit from having their best goalie in the net. That does affect players sometimes. You know you have a really good chance of winning when Tuukka Rask is in the net. I understand Halak had a great year, but Tuukka Rask is the better goalie. He just is. Start Rask. It's just that simple. Moving on now to Avalanche Stars. And the key for the Avalanche is probably just give yourself a little more time to win. I mean, I'm still not over that buzzer beater that Kadri had. You couldn't do that again if you tried. It was as close could be. Maybe give yourself a little more time. I mean, the Avalanche played great against the Blues. There's not much they need to change. Philip Grubauer, I was a little skeptical of, but he played really well. Just keep doing what you're doing. And the Stars, the number one thing would be to tighten up. Don't get complacent. Even when you're up 2, headed into the third period, that game is not yours 100%. You still have 20 minutes of hockey left to play. Case in point, what happened against the Golden Knights on Monday. The Stars were another team that was reeling before the pause. They had lost their last 6. 3-5-2 in their last 10. And some of those bad habits reared their ugly head again. That can't happen. You see it with the Islanders. Everyone's starting at 0. The Islanders were worse than the Stars at the time of the pause. Just tighten it up. Don't get complacent. Play to the whistle, and you'll be fine. Moving on now to Penguins, Canadiens. The number one thing here for the Penguins is just keep Pepper and Carey Price. Don't let the Canadiens get anything going. You saw how the Maple Leafs played yesterday against the Blue Jackets? Duplicate that. That's exactly what you need to do to beat the Canadiens. Carey Price has stood on his head, but he's not perfect. If you put enough pucks on net, he will cave. Also, you've got to get Evgeny Malkin cooking a little bit more. Malkin has been invisible these past 2 games. I understand that they have guys like Crosby and Gensel and Sheary, so it's not the end of the world, but you still need your second best player. That would concern me if I was a Penguins fan. For the Canadiens, it's really simple. Support Carey Price. Support your goalie. Help him. He can't do it all by himself. Carey Price has been the Canadiens' best player in games 1 and 2. That's not a sustainable formula for success against a team as offensively gifted as the Penguins. The Penguins are going to look to pressure you. They're going to look to not let you into the offensive zone. That's okay. Dump and chase works, but you need a good forecheck. Force the Penguins into mistakes and capitalize on those mistakes. Matt Murray is not great. He didn't have a great season this year. In Game 1, he wasn't that good. Game 2, he played great. But he's beatable. That's how you're going to beat the Penguins. Support your goalie and capitalize on Penguins' mistakes that you're going to force. Moving on now to Oilers-Blackhawks. For the Oilers, it's really simple. Do exactly what you've been doing. Just keep Mikko Koskinen in net. Game 1, the Oilers were fine offensively. Mike Smith just played like Swiss cheese. I mean, if you score 4 goals, you expect to win. The Oilers have been fine offensively. Defensively, they've struggled, but they've done that all year. They have a good penalty kill, but that's pretty much it. Their defense isn't anything special. Just keep doing what you're doing. As for the Blackhawks, a big reason that the Oilers won Game 2 was the fact that Connor McDavid was on the ice when Duncan Keith and Jonathan Toews weren't. If you're Jeremy Colleton, you've got to realize that and you have to adapt. He didn't in Game 2. He needs to in Game 3. He needs to put Keith and Toews out there with McDavid. Shut him down at all costs as best you can. I mean, we've seen it in the playoffs before. I can go back to the 70s. Don Cherry put Donnie Marcotte on Guy Lafleur, and it worked. Lafleur was invisible. You've got to do a better job of managing those chess matches. And all in all, just change your overall approach. What you're doing isn't working. Alright, Corey Crawford has been inept. You haven't gotten a lot of help defensively for him. Offensively, you've been fine, but you've just got to change up the approach defensively. And if that means starting Malcolm Subban, I don't hate it. I don't love it, because I'm not a big Subban fan, but I don't hate it. Tomorrow and Friday, you're going to get early podcasts. So, just like today, they're going to drop at high noon Eastern Time. I've been staying up late, and it's been fine. I'm a night owl anyway. Doesn't bother me at all. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that my hope for Nolan Ryan is that he goes to Harvard Medical School. Not to study, but to be studied.